and welcome to my channel. Now today's video is about some Kenwood speakers. Now I've only got one model here, but they do a complete range of these speakers. This is the LS-45, but they do the 55, 65s, quite a lot in the LS range. And maybe one way of finding out if yours going to be pretty similar to these maybe is that little tweeter there, the actual shape of that little tweeter. Look out for it, you can't really miss it. Very, very small, called a piezo tweeter, and that's spelled P-I-E-Z-O. I'm going to come to that in a minute. That's the main reason really for the video here, because it's not a great tweeter at all, I don't think. It may actually be kind of a bit of a super tweeter, but we'll come on to that shortly. Now, why did I get these? Because like I say, not many people are going to call these HiFi, but they do come up on eBay, and I've seen them go for £50. And you know, I just want to be, you know, make people a bit wary. Now, if you bought that for £50 or you're thinking about getting it, and I'm not going to put you off at all, I'm just going to let you know maybe what to expect. And maybe if you see these in a shop going cheap, like one of these LS models, like I say, they do quite a lot of different models. They do some with a kind of hole down the bottom, and it looks like it's a kind of like little bass reflex thing going on down the bottom here. They do quite a few different models. You have a look around, type in Kenwood LS and go through the range. But the ones to look out for, I can't comment on some others because others have got different drivers, different tweeter, etc. Is this little miniature, little very, very small tweeter here, because it is very, very small. We're going to take it all out and have a little look inside shortly. But like I say, the main reason is just to make you aware if you were going to go and buy these. Now, the thing is, if you was to go and buy these, maybe you know what they're all about anyway. You've got the stack system, the Kenwood stack system, and they sell quite, you know, for quite a bit of money. I've been looking on eBay, and I mean, I see some go for £400, these little stack systems. I say little, they've got quite a few units and speakers like this to go with them. And I'm thinking, you know, if you're looking for that and you've bought one of them and maybe that's your thing, you know what it's all about, you've had it in the past and you're really happy with that kind of sound. But if you've got one of them systems, I just think you could make these speakers sound a little bit better than what they are. I'm going to show you that or tell you about that as the video goes along. So if you've already got one of these LS speakers, hopefully I'm going to make them sound a little bit better than what they are. I'm not going to make them sound unbelievably better, but they are going to sound a little bit better in my opinion anyway. So we're going to come to that as well. And also, like I say, that stack system, £400. I'm thinking maybe, you know, if you wanted to get an old looking stack system or something like that, and you weren't too sure, you really didn't know much about it, maybe it'd be better off to buy some different separate HiFi wise. But it really depends on the sound you want, because these do give out quite a unique sound, to be honest with you, when you compare it to maybe normal HiFi. So I'm going to come to all that, so it's going to be another one of my lengthy non-stop talking videos that I probably could have done in about 2 minutes. But if you're interested in something like this, maybe you want to stick around and have a listen to what I've got to say. Right, so first of all, we're going to look at this little tweeter, because this lets, it's quite a lot, lets this speaker down. Let's maybe just give you my very quick review of this speaker anyway, before we actually start taking it apart. My review of this speaker is that it's probably got a British, kind of retro-ish 80s, 90s kind of sound to it. It's not got a lot of detail in there at all. The bass is a bit muddy, but it's quite muddy. It can get a little bit distorted. It can get caught up in itself. It's got no padding in there at all. I'll tell a lie, it's got a little sheet of foam, not worth talking about, stuck in the bottom. I'll show you that in a minute. And it just makes it like a very enclosed kind of speaker. It's got no kind of like, it's got no airiness to it. It's very cramped up in that box. It's got no space around any instruments or nothing like that. So this is not really HiFi at all. This is like I say, that maybe classics 80s kind of British sound that you may have been associated with going to parties in the 80s, something like when people had a little like music centre or something like a stack system. That kind of sound you're going to get if you wanted that 80s sound. You're not worried about any detail or anything like that. It still sounds okay, nothing fantastic, but it still sounds okay. Then these are okay, you know what I mean? Okay, I won't go over the top and pay too much money for them, but saying that, if you're looking for that sound and they're coming up for £50 or £60 and that's what you've got to pay, then a lot of people are willing to pay that, obviously. But I think you could do a lot better than these, even if you just went, for instance, and you wanted to kind of keep that 70s, 80s, well, maybe 80s, 90s kind of sound kind of thing, is maybe a pair of Wolfdales, a pair of, not the Diamonds, because they're going to bring it up to a bit too much in the HiFi kind of sound, that kind of thing. You still want it to have that kind of sound that these are going to have. I'd maybe suggest a pair of Wolfdale 30s, what are they called? Wolfdale Delta 30s, Delta 50s or Delta 70s, something like in that kind of range of particular speakers I've had that don't look too dissimilar to these in a way, the way they're made and that kind of thing. They are made a little bit better, obviously, cabinet wise and goings on, the actual drivers and everything else a lot better. But it's going to kind of give you that, it's going to be touching on that sound quite a bit. It's going to be over in that direction sound wise, and they're going to sound better than this, and it's definitely going to give you a lot more detail mid-range and in, well, everywhere really, bass, mid-range, and especially the treble there, because the treble, like I say, is really let down by this little tweeter. So what I'm going to do is take these apart live as usually I'll take some pictures, but we're going to take them apart. I've got a few screws undone already. So anyway, let's take this cover off. These covers do come off, so that's that cover. They look quite, they don't look too bad with the covers, do they? But we'll sling that side down there like that. So that's on the floor. We're going to take this tweeter out because this is the tweeter that's not that fantastic. This lets the whole unit down. If anything does, and there it is. It's a very, I've undone it here at the moment, so I make it quick access, but it's a very small tweeter. You've got to be careful as you undo these on the back, because you can actually pull it apart, which I did do with one of them. Actually come apart in my hand because I tugged a little bit too hard. And this here is like a piezo tweeter. This weighs all of 4 grams. Got it on the scales and it weighed 4 grams, so that's quite a vast difference. But it's the way this tweeter's been made, a vast difference from for instance these Concord tweeters. Not tweeters, these are mid-range and tweeter kind of thing, but any other tweeter really, they weigh like this particular unit nearly enough weighs a kilo I think, but they're going to weigh like 400 grams, 300 grams, something like that. This is this is probably 100 times lighter maybe, or 50 times lighter than a normal tweeter. But this is different. Anyway, coming back quickly to that Concord tweeters, speakers I've got. I can't get to them at the moment. Things are all in the way of them, but I will come back to them very shortly. I've got all the bits for them now. So anyway, this here, I've been reading a few people's ideas, and these here on eBay, is one up there for sale at the moment, just for the tweeter for £25. I'll be very surprised if that gets sold. And to be honest with you, if they go, you're not going to miss them. You're not going to miss this here in these speakers, because they don't give out a lot anyway. And what they do give out is pretty, not a lot of detail to it, shall we say, pretty insignificant really. These two drivers here are going to give you quite, pretty much, well, I think it actually sounds better, because I think this actually worsens the sound a tad compared to just these two drivers doing all the frequencies. So if these did go in your speaker, I wouldn't be worried too much. I'll just unplug it and forget about it. Obviously leave it in there to cover the hole up, but don't worry about it. Yeah, I've actually looked online, and a few people kind of say this is the kind of like little pizza thing that they actually use in deterrents for animals and all that kind of thing you stick in your garden, or mosquito deterrent, something like that. I don't know how true it is, but what I can say honestly is that since using these speakers I've had no mosquitoes here whatsoever, so yeah, must work, I should imagine. Okay, so that's it. Now this is actually cool. Let's get your glasses out. Don't usually see me with my glasses. Getting old now, so we're going to stick my glasses on. I'm going to tell you what this is actually called. It's a TO3 023205 tweeter for the Kenwood there. So that's that. So we'll stick them over there. May need them again in a minute. So next thing we're going to take out is this mid-range unit. I should have actually loosened this, so just bear with us. We're going to take out this mid-range, just 2 screws holding that in there. So that's one good thing, if I forgot to undo it. So there'll be a couple of screws. Oh, actually, I don't have to undo one because it's going to fall. So there it is. This is the mid-range, and we're going to whip this out as well. It ain't too bad, is it? It ain't too bad. It's nothing fantastic, but you definitely want it connected up in the circuit. That's for certain. You definitely want a working one, and that's not going to come out. Oh, there it is. It's come out. Now that way is not a lot either. As you can see, there's the big magnet on the back. Is hardly worth talking about whatsoever. Not going to put any pictures up, but yeah. So there's not a lot to that mid-range there. Very small magnet, and I should imagine that probably weighs about 50 or 60 grams, nothing special, but it does do the job on this speaker here. So we're going to undo the driver now. So we're going to undo the main driver, the base, the main driver here. I've just got 2 screws holding this in, lucky enough. I haven't gone too mad. So the crossover here is just one capacitor. I'll show you that. It's all wired up pretty cheap and whatever. And talking about price, I'm not too sure what these would have cost. These would have probably come with a system. Now I did review a pair of Pioneer CS 977s, was it? And that did come with a system, and it's also, they sold them speakers separate. And what I did notice that I didn't really like them speakers, they weren't that great at all, them Pioneers, HiFi speakers they were supposed to be. I did look through a few magazines a little while afterwards. I stumbled across them actually, and they were kind of going for half the price that a normal pair of speakers. Like if you had for instance, back then maybe a pair of Celestians or maybe a pair of Wolfdales, something like that. They was at least half the price of them speakers at the time if you went and bought them separate. So it probably told you that they're not going to be made nowhere near as good as the Celestians or Wolfdales, etc. So if we take this out. Got a couple of screws on there actually. This doesn't weigh a lot neither. There's not a massive magnet on there, as you can see. They're rated at 70 watts, these speakers. 70 watts, 8 ohms. That ain't done me too many favours, I don't think. But I should have had this prepared a bit. Ah, there we go. and there it is. And this here, like I say, this mid-range stroke tweeter, really, it does make, you know, it does do a lot of the high end as well. Maybe we could call this little tweeter here a super tweeter, maybe. But yeah, so that is very important in the enclosure and working properly. And there's the little crossover there. It's just one capacitor there. I'm not too sure how many microfarad that is. Because I can't see. Oh, 2.2 microfarad, but looks like, yeah, 2.2 microfarad capacitor is the crossover in these particular speakers. So there you go. So that's the main driver out, and there's a bit of foam that it's quite itchy. It's a bit of loft foam, really. Something for the loft is in there, and that is it. That is always in that cabinet. So like I say, these sound. The bass actually starts farting on certain tracks to a certain extent, just on the verge of farting, depending how loud you're in that and what you're listening to. So what I did is I had a little bit of a muck around. I stuck a few cushions, some more padding in there, some more wadding in there, anything you like. And really, it was anything you like, because I've got a seat cover here, just a normal seat cover, and that's a bit of cushion with a bit of a cloth around it. I managed to get all that in there, fold it up, wedge it in and sling it in there. And this makes a vast amount of difference, in my opinion. It tightens the bass right up, so we're not going to get that fart, and we're not getting all them low frequencies getting in the way of everything else, subduing this speaker to a certain extent and just making it in no kind of definition there at all. This tightens it up nicely, in my opinion, and makes it sound a lot better, but still keeping that kind of 80s kind of sound, still keeping this British sound, still keeping the sound signature of this speaker. So if you've got a pair of these 45s, maybe 55s, 65s, any of them really, in this range with that little tweeter, or any of these kind of speakers, because there's nothing in there, like I say, it's just a box and very, very cheaply made. It's just get yourself some cushions or some padding or something like that and have a little experiment. Take the driver out, the main driver, be a bit careful you don't catch any of the wires or anything like that, but that's your main entry point. The backs don't come off or nothing like that with these speakers, so it is all from the front only. And just get yourself something like that and just stick it in there. Don't worry about where it lands or anything like that, just stick it in there, maybe put it up a little bit and just put all the speaker, the main speaker back in again. And well, in this particular case it definitely improves the sound, so and I think it's probably going to improve the sound of you're going to get rid of that woolliness, that farting kind of sound and that bass that's getting in the way of everything else as well, and it's going to tighten it up, and I think you're going to get a much more better sound and a much better enjoyment out of it, that's for certain. So let's say if you did come, if you have got these speakers and going to buy these speakers because you want that sound, then definitely have a little tinker around with putting some foam, or even if you've got an old cushion from your settee or something like that, stick it in there. It sounds crazy maybe off the settee, but stick it in there and see what you think. And if you think it's made that amount of difference, you may want to tinker around and put some up the sides and pad it out a bit more, I don't know, but yeah, definitely makes a big improvement, really tightens that bass up nicely. But at the end of the day, like I say, it's not going to improve the actual detail or anything like that of this speaker. Top end is let down, there's no real definition of that top end, it's there kind of thing, but that's about it. But it's that kind of sound that, like I say, you maybe went to a party back in the 80s or late 70s, 80s, early 90s, something around there, and you're not too worried, you're just listening to the music, and it's got that kind of British classic sound to it, but it's not an HiFi speaker, that's for certain. So that's it. I just wanted to let you know about these Kenwood speakers. Maybe you've got a pair, or wondering about them, or got some ideas or thoughts about them, anything like that. But these here, like, oh, I didn't tell you, by the way, I did get these really cheap. I don't know if you can see that, hopefully you can see, I'll bring it down the bottom, I most certainly can, but that says £19.99. Now, like I say, a pair did go on eBay recently for £50, and a pair not in great shape went for about £16 or £17 plus postage. But I was in Cash Converters, and I do go to Cash Converters just to have a little look round. Don't really buy a lot from there, I must admit. I bought a few little bits and pieces, a couple of bits online which I end up with some dud speakers because they didn't bother testing them. So I'm not too sure how far the testing goes, but I've been in there quite a few times in my local shop now, and you get speaking to the person behind the counter because he keeps seeing you come in, and I'm one of these kind of people that ends up going there and saying, sorry, I'm going to have a look round, but I don't usually buy a lot because I just pick certain items that I want. Told him what I'm doing, etc. And we was just talking, and these were at the top. He said, and I said, what kind of speakers you get and all that kind of stuff and whatever. And he said, I've only got a couple of pairs of speakers. He said, I've got this here, the KENWOOD, and something. Oh, it's a Celestial Ditton's 15s that was in there for £59, the original 15s, not the XR ones. So I already got them, or had them, should I say, so they were no good to me. But they were £59, which is not a bad price, quite a reasonable price really. £19.99. He said, you can take them away if you want to. He said, what you give them? He goes, I just want to get rid of them. So I said, well, what do you give them for me? And I thought, oh, I'll give them a fiver for them. I nearly said a fiver. So I said to him, I don't think it's going to be much good. £19.99. I'd rather give you £1.99, pretty much as a joke, to be honest with you. And he said, well, give me the £1.99, they're yours. And I thought, oh, right, so I'll get him £2. So there you go. So I got them for £2, which is something I never went in there to buy. I weren't really interested in them, but I'm glad I did to a certain extent. It's because I've been able to tell you about them, put another video on the channel and tell you about them as well, and have a little muck around. And I've been mucking around with them quite a bit, and found this quite interesting because I've not really come across one of these before. So that was quite interesting as well. I wasn't expecting much, obviously, because these are going to be quite, like I say, a cheap speaker for them to manufacture. But obviously, the more higher-end speakers with Kenwood and HiFi and all that kind of stuff, it's going to sound a lot better. But this was just a run-of-the-mill kind of stack system speaker, I think. Okay, no need for me to waffle anymore. I hope you enjoyed that little video and give you an insight to maybe what some of these sound like. That's it. Until the next video, I'll say thanks for watching.